Welcome back to Passionately Catholic. I'm Anthony Digmann, and I'm so blessed today to be joined by Cookie Scherrman, who's a wonderful lady who lives in my community in Dyersville, Iowa. And when I think of someone who really embodies Matthew chapter 25 and what you do for the least among us, you've done for me, as Jesus says, Cookie really comes to mind. And she's a wealth of wisdom and really incredible life experiences and just being able to touch people in their life, in their moments. And I really wanted to take this opportunity. And Cookie's been so gracious to share some of her time with us that I'm really excited to learn more about her story and talk about that with her. So we welcome Cookie Scherrman to Passionately Catholic.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, so Cookie, tell us a little bit about your life, your faith journey. You know, maybe what was it like growing up, or why are you Catholic today? What did your faith journey look like?
Well, I was a cradle Catholic. You know, that was a part of who you were when you lived in Dyersville. Everybody went to church. I guess I didn't feel any different than anybody else, and I just knew that that's where I wanted to be. You know, it made perfect sense, gave meaning to your life. We were normal kids just like everybody else. Then we got married and had a family, and I was blessed at the time that I could be a stay-at-home mom. Well, this was back in a long time ago. 62 years to be exact. And so we had our family, and I was involved with activities for sports. You would get involved with kids at school. One thing I did at the time, I was sacristan out at the nursing home at the chapel, and I could take some of my young daughters along. And they got to visit with the residents, which was wonderful for them. We had a handicapped special needs group home behind us. There was no better neighbors we could have had having our kids grow up. I mean, they learned about the specialness. We always had kind of a revolving door. They were in and out a lot, and we learned a lot about our faith and about life and about fun from them. I mean, it was just a blessing. So, yeah, and as time rolled on, you know, kids got older, your duties changed a bit. And then, I guess when I think about ministry, I think it's really important that the gospel where it says you were called, because that's what happened to me. Back in 1984, Father Stanley Hayek was here, and he rang my doorbell. And the parish council was going to be starting. And he wanted to know if I would like to be the chairperson for the Peace and Justice Committee. Wow, that was going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So I thought about it a little bit, and he was always such a special person. Who would say no to Father Hayek? Nobody would. So I did it. And then things started bumping up. A lot of things happened, yeah. And I took some classes at Loras College. I had not gone to college previously. And then I took a 3-year Master's of Ministry program. Learned a lot about the Gospels. I guess I always knew the Eucharist and the Mass were really special to me, but Matthew 25, like you said, became very important to me. The Gospels and the Eucharist was kind of the heart of what my faith was about and how I would live that out.
So, okay, I've got to know, Cookie, Peace and Justice, Father Hayek, 1984. You know, I was born in 1982. So what did that, you say peace and justice now, I know what you're talking about, but what did peace and justice look like in 1984 in rural Iowa? Or what did Father Hayek have in mind?
There was a parish booklet that it was a 3-ring binder, and you opened it up and there was a whole little sheet that said Peace and Justice Committee. That's where we started on that little sheet of paper. And it talked about things like Matthew 25. You know, how can you do this in your parish? How can you feed the hungry? How can you clothe the naked? On down the line. And so in 1986, 2 years later, the the main bank in Dyersville closed. And we went to a meeting out at Beckman. They were wonderful with helping with things. And I asked Father Hayek, I says, well, what should we do? He says, we need to start a food pantry. I thought, oh, okay, I guess we're starting a food pantry. I had no clue what that meant, but what it did at the time, there were people that their accounts were frozen, and there were people that surfaced that never needed help before in their lives, and all of a sudden they needed help.
Sure.
So that part gradually kind of took care of itself with time. But it also brought to light all the other people in the area that needed help that were kind of invisible.
Uh-huh.
They were. And so a lot of things happened. I remember that first Christmas that we had, and I had a few ladies that would help with different things, and I said, we have to start a Christmas project. So get out the angels, get out this to help. And so we learned a lot. And I guess how I've always looked at that over the years that I kind of facilitated things happening there was that it was just as important to the people who gave things as it was for the people who received things.
Sure.
They would make it into a family project, especially at Christmas or whatever, or whenever we had collections. People were wonderful. The Scouts did things. And so it wasn't just focused on those who needed it. It was focused on, let's be a community.
Sure.
And that's what I loved about it, was that it opened up a lot of new things for me too. It also opened up your eyes. A lot of times people needed help because they were going through some marriage issues or whatever. And so you tried to direct them a little bit into places where they could go for help. Emotionally, for their family, for a lot of different kinds of things. Or maybe there was a really bad illness in the family and all of a sudden one person couldn't work, and so how can you help? So it was more than food. There was a lot of different things that we could help with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of tears down there. There were tears of joy when things got better. I remember one day a mom came down and she had a little baby with her that had stomach was outside. I mean, the baby went through surgeries for probably 3-4 years, and all of a sudden one day she came and she says, Cookie, we're all better. We don't need to come back, but thank you.
Wonderful.
You know, and she said, so I want to help. And a lot of people were like that. If they had received help and things got going again, they wanted to be the ones because they had received help when they needed it.
Sure.
And those are powerful things to happen. Yeah. And then in the meantime, we would go into Dubuque and do meals at the Catholic Worker House once a week. And so a lot of times that would be, a family could come in and help us, whatever. We had confirmation kids that needed some service hours. And I mean, it was all new to me too at the beginning. But then as you get new people in there, you kind of watch them meet the people. Uh-huh. And the change that comes over them. So on the way in, they'd have a kind of a quiet car session, and on the way home, it's chatter, chatter, chatter about all these things that happened. And it was wonderful.
Right?
Yeah.
I love what you shared about how it's not just about the people who receive some things, it's also about the giving and how it builds community and family and teaches it to the younger generation. I think, and maybe I'm crazy, but I think that deep down in our souls, we want to love and we want to give, and that's built into who we are, made in God's image and likeness, and God's love just pours out, and that we're built for that. And so often in American culture, we're taught to be selfish and to take care of yourself. And, you know, I mean, not to be selfish in a selfish way, but you got to take care of yourself, and you got to take care of your family and whoever's dependent on you.
Individualism.
Right, yeah, right. But really, we experience fulfillment when we're pouring ourselves out in love. Then where did the peace and justice go from there? And, you know, there's so much that you've done over the decades. I'm excited to learn about how certain things, I imagine that they gradually got added on because God doesn't give everything to us at once.
No.
You kind of master something small and then just keep adding on. So what came next?
Well, as you look through the book, that page, you turned it over and there were more things on the other side, of course.
There always
and I kind of thought we needed to look outside of ourselves. You know, we started a care and share collection for like every other month. So we looked to financially help people who needed it. Maybe it was Catholic Relief Services or organizations, and you kind of looked into these things before you were going to put your money on the line for that. But and then it was like, I just thought I just felt called. So we looked at Native American issues in our country, and Appalachia were some more issues. And then I heard about Cedar Rapids St. Jude's had a connection in Haiti with a parish, sister parish. And that was kind of this was like in 1989. So we invited them to come up and talk and share stories about their commitment and their connection. And I remember my husband Don was there, and he said, I thought, oh my gosh, this is where Cookie's going next.
Right.
So we looked at it, and during the presentation, they also mentioned, if you would like to help us, Father had a lot of parishes, and we would definitely be helpful. So my thinking was, if we took their slides and showed them to our parish, we wouldn't just be showing them pictures of people. We would be showing them pictures of our parish. That was kind of one of the reasons. And you know, sometimes when things are established a little bit, it's a little easier going.
Sure.
So we did join them. We got the approval from Father Hayek, the parish council. So as of 1990, we had a sister parish in Haiti.
Awesome. And that's located, tell us a little bit about the parish.
The parish is located about 53 exactly miles from north of Port-au-Prince, up in the mountains. It takes about 3 hours to get there because it's pretty bumpy roads, but they were powerful trips. I went down that year with Cedar Rapids, and different ones would eventually go down with us too. We went every year. And then gradually we made our own groups and we went down after a few years. And the connections that people made while they were there with the people, you know, at the beginning you're learning all about it yourself, and then gradually you learn as the other people experience the people there and make their connections, and it's all blessed time. Really, I mean, it was as hard as it was. We would go, we'd have breakfast in the morning, we'd go out and do whatever project we were going to help with that day. And then we'd come back to the rectory, which is where we stayed, and we would have supper, and then we always had probably a good hour of time of prayer and reflecting on what happened that day. Uh-huh. And it was just amazing what the people saw. It just made you feel good. Then when our grandson Zach was a junior, I took him along. Uh-huh. That was the first that we took. Rob Toll and Zach and Zach's sister, Emily Toll went, and a friend from Cedar Rapids took her niece. 6 of us went down, and that was even better watching the kids. Yeah, when they would get excited. There's a lot of kids over the years that, because of that trip, has influenced what they wanted to do with their life. You know.
Right.
And then other things I've always told the kids too when they get talking about, I said, you know, half of the world lives like this. So if there's ever any time you can do something to help somebody, don't think about it. Just do it.
Sure.
Because that's what it's supposed to be.
Sure.
There's been lots of struggles down there over the years. Right now we can't even go just because of all the gangs, and that was back in 2018 was our last trips. So that's been hard, really hard, to know that they're in that much trouble and nobody can go. We send our money down every month, but that's it.
Are there some issues with resources getting to the parish? I would imagine that there's...
They haven't had a sea container for a couple of years.
Okay.
So we're not collecting things right now.
Sure.
I mean, hopefully things change. I guess you always hope and pray that it will for them.
Right.
But it's just hard.
But the money gets there okay?
The money gets there. There's a Fonquose, which is a micro lending bank for third world countries.
Okay.
And there's a branch bank up at the parish, so Father can get it, goes directly there.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of thinking about this. You know, if I'm in a situation at a parish, I've always had on my mind it'd be great to help in a third world parish, sister parish, something like that. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this may be it may be a lot harder or a lot easier to get started than I think. Sometimes we blow stuff up in our mind, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, I couldn't do that. It would be too hard. But maybe it isn't. You know,
You can do it.
Yeah, touch on that a little bit.
Well, the main organization that we worked through is Haiti Parish Twinning Program. Harry Hosey was on a cruise ship, and he went to Haiti, and I think it was probably maybe like late 70s or something that he went down to Haiti. And when everybody else went to the beaches and whatever, he went off to see the people. And when he got home, he said, we have to do something down there. He said, there is no reason why we can't take Catholic parishes here and line them up with parishes down there, and we can help them.
Sure.
And that's how the whole organization started.
And what was the name again?
Haiti Parish Twinning Program.
Haiti Parish Twinning Program. Okay,
Right.
good.
Yeah. And so that's what we worked through. Teresa Patterson was the coordinator at the time, and she's gotten to be a really good friend. Yeah. So, things, if you want to do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And you never have to do things alone. There's always people who will pitch in and help, and, I can look that up, or I can do that, and yeah.
Sure. The Spirit moves in beautiful ways. And
It does. Nobody ever does anything alone. I don't care what it is.
Right.
We all work together some way.
one of my favorite phrases is God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. So if we're
Isn't that true?
Yeah, right.
That's
if we're feeling
right.
that on our hearts, then the Holy Spirit
Right.
will get it done.
Yeah.
You can't stop God from doing his will.
Well, and when you're saying that, it reminds me too of another line. It says, people with faith don't see different things. They just see things differently.
Yeah.
And that works too.
Yes.
You know, you could see this, and you look at it maybe as a big project, but if you want to do it enough and you have enough faith, you're going to get it done.
Right? Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So from your own experience, but also so many years of getting to see other people go down to Haiti, what would you say are some of the most common highlights or insights or that from your experiences?
Let's see. I think just people putting a face on things. I mean, the pantry did that to me here, and it did it to a lot of people when they all of a sudden realized that we need to help each other. Mm-hmm. And Haiti's the same way. It's kind of like you see pictures on TV, read about them in books and everything. You're going down there and talking to them. You're making them be a friend. They come up and talk to you. I think the friendships that were made down there just plain touched people's hearts. And I think they realized too that we do make a difference. You know, we gave them hope. You know, some of the young people kept correspondence with, they'd get an email. You know how life is. Kids are very ingenious about things, and their kids are too.
Sure.
So they would kind of one way or other make it work. So I think a lot of it is just that personal contact. All of a sudden, you're interested in their life. Mm-hmm. How can I help? What can I do to make a difference in their lives? And I think as the program has grown, I mean, when you think about those first years, 30 some years ago, it was pretty little, our budget. And it's grown quite a bit over the years, and people are interested. Our parish had some flooding and a lot of just really hard things happen about 2 months ago. So when Father sent a note, I put a letter about it in the bulletin, And we were just getting ready to see if we could send some money down for seed, because I mean everything's out of their reach right now. They don't have seed, everything's gone. So I get a call from Father Tang over at the seminary, over in Epworth, and he said, Cookie, he said, we collected money for Haiti during Lent. He said, and I wasn't sure what to do with it, but I think I'm going to send it to you. It was $3,025 whatever dollars.
Wow.
It was kind of like the sky opened up and heaven just dropped this money down, because we were not expecting it.
Right.
So we put it with our next check right away, so the farmers got to buy seeds.
Wow.
Or whatever else they might need to get the crop. That's their livelihood. I've been in touch with Father Tang, and I said, you have saved lives over there. Really, truly. You've saved lives. Yeah. So, and then when students would come back, I think grown-ups come back and they tell the story too. And I'm not saying that's not a big deal, it's a big deal. But when you have a high school kid come home and talk to their parents and talk to their other friends and get excited about something, people listen.
Right.
And that's how the program has grown and stayed alive over the years. Yeah.
Awesome.
People know what I think. That's beside the point. They want to know what these kids think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as any parent knows, you can tell your kids as much as you want, but if their friends say it, that's going to make the world a difference.
Right. It does.
So
it does.
true.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So Haiti was a big deal. That's one of the biggest things I'm aware of you doing, having taught at Beckman for 15, going on 16 years now. It used to be, I know we haven't been able to go in many years, but that was always powerful to have students come back and share their story.
They were wonderful.
It's amazing, how much it changes their perspective and attitude and, everything. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So we got Haiti, we got food pantry. What else fell under the umbrella?
Well, I think a lot of after that would kind of more fell under like pastoral ministry things that we did. Well, we have a bereavement session, twice a year for families, and a few of us were on that committee. I suppose one of the most special things that I do during the week is visiting people in their homes. I do go to some nursing homes and things, but and sometimes somebody's really sick, and spending time with them. I remember Father Hayek saying, he was probably about 50 when he came here, so he was relatively a young person. And he said, Cookie, the thing that has taught me the most about my faith and how important it is to me is being with people who are dying. You get a whole new appreciation of how important your faith is. You see it happen. You do. I remember telling somebody the other day, I said, when somebody's really sick, we all pray for miracles.
Right.
And I said, if they get better, that's easy. That's an easy miracle. When you have to use that big word acceptance, that's when you need God's grace, or you can't do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've seen that happen with people so many times where they're not, at the beginning, they're not even close to accepting things. But gradually, and that's just God's grace, and you just have to have your heart open for that. And it's going to be there. It's going to be there.
Sure. And
that's where my faith grows, when I see people like that. And also, I feel like it's important for all of us to remind people when they're doing things that you're doing God's work. I don't care if you're in the line checking out at Fairway, if you're the checker. If you're good to people and you're helping, you're doing God's work. You don't have to have a special title. We're all in this together. Right. I like to remind people, and especially somebody taking care of somebody. If you take care of somebody because you have to, you're doing it. If you take care of somebody because you love them, it's a whole new dimension to it. And that's where your faith is involved too. And that's where God's grace is, right in the middle of all that.
Sure.
And I really believe when parents especially are taking care of their parents and their kids see this, that's where we learn how we should help each other. You don't learn that stuff in a book.
Right.
You learn it by watching people do it. And I think it's good for all of us to remind people so often how wonderful it is that they've done that. Yeah. I also like to tell people if they're laying on their deathbed, think about the good things you did. Don't sit there and think about, oh, I wish, I wish, I wish. Think about the good things you did because you know you did lots of good things. Think about the things that have made a difference in people's lives. Yeah.
I think that's great advice, Cookie, because I imagine, like, we can beat ourselves up. We can be really hard on ourselves, but if we look through the eyes of God, He's always loving us.
He's always loving us.
Like, right, that's what is going to be on His mind, is looking at, this is what you did with the time I gave you, positively. Yes, you messed up. Yes, you sinned.
Well, we were human.
Right.
Yeah.
We all do that.
Right.
But where are we at now? Because God doesn't care about where we've been and what we've done. He cares about where we are now and where we're going. And it's never too late to grow in that relationship. Yeah.
No.
I really appreciate what you're sharing here in terms of death and helping people through that. I'm 40. I don't have a lot of experience with death. I still have two of my grandparents still alive. Both of my grandmothers have passed away, and I was really blessed to be there for my first grandmother when she died, to be there. And I wanted to be there, and it was such a grace to be able to be there. And it was challenging in its own ways for me, but it was also so wonderful. I feel weird in the sense that I like to keep death in mind because I see my life as a gradual preparation for what I hope will be a good death. And I really want to be ready at all times, like the thief in the night. Like, you don't know when it's going to come, and have as few regrets as possible and have my soul in a good state when that comes. But I also think that I live better when I have death in mind. Memento mori, remember death, right? That it keeps my priorities straighter, keeps me from getting in as much trouble, helps me to ask forgiveness quicker, and I think it just helps me live a better life. But I really appreciate more of that concrete approach, because that I think of death more in the preparing for it in the long term. It's not so imminent for me. But I'm just curious, what else would you have for advice other than think of the good when you're there, thinking of the good things? I'm hearing you say acceptance is a really big deal.
It's a huge thing.
And that means a lot too, because like in teaching a sacraments class to high school sophomores, we talk about anointing of the sick, and that's kind of a remote sacrament for them, for a lot of them, and me too, to be honest with you. But two of the key things about anointing of the sick, we're praying for healing if it's God's will, physical healing, but even more so for spiritual healing. And the other primary grace of anointing of the sick is acceptance. Right. And like you're saying, that is a bigger miracle than a physical healing.
It's a huge thing.
So that means a lot. Like, that really puts something more concrete for me into that. So thank you. But what other thoughts do you have on death, maybe of a family member or for ourselves preparing?
And then I think that talking to the family that's there, being with grandma, grandpa, or sister, whoever it is, that they need to look at this in different ways too. Sometimes if somebody's kind of in a coma or isn't talking much anymore, I'll tell the kids, I'll say, sit here and talk about some of the fun stuff you did growing up and laugh. I mean, I guess if there's one thing in my life that I think is important, it's joy.
Yeah.
Growing up, I think we all knew some people who were really holy. They were very pious, but they were not very happy people. And I thought, boy, I don't want to do that.
Sure.
But God's grace, and living and brings joy to your life. So I always tell them, I said, there's not a bigger gift you can give to a parent than to have the kids laughing and know that they had a happy time growing up in the house. What's better?
Yeah.
There isn't anything better.
That's so true. Because like you're saying, think about, when we're in that boat, think about what we did well. And you're right. I would feel so consoled being in that boat
have your
with my
kids
children.
Laughing.
Yes, to have kids and
Good
grandkids
stories.
nearby. You're right.
Yeah.
That would be so consoling.
Yeah, it does help. And then I think, like, even for a wake service too, you can't say so often that they're with God and they're in a better place. That's not what you want to hear when somebody that you really love, or your mom that's 59 just passed away.
Right.
You know that, but you need to be consoled with, with more things too, that, God's love is there for them. And then I kind of tell them, there's a saying that I like from St. John of the Cross. It says, I saw a river over which every soul must cross to reach the kingdom of heaven. And the name of that river is suffering. And then I saw the boat that carries souls across the river. And the name of that boat is love. And I remind them that they were their mom's love boat. Mm-hmm. There's always one person who's kind of the captain who facilitates more things. But then I always tell them, think of the things she did to make them happy. Think of the things she did to make her smile. And sometimes that can be your consolation on a hard day.
Sure.
Right. Because you did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's always reaching back for the goodness that happens, God's grace, God's mercy, which we can't even understand, because we would never be that generous.
Right.
Ever, as God always is. But yeah, I think realizing that you did everything you could to help, and you did a good job.
Sure.
You were great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we respond better when we have that positive. I'm even thinking of disciplining children or students, it's always better when we look at the positive and go, look what you're called to. You're capable of this. You've done it before. Let's keep going, as opposed to dwelling on the negative. And the same thing true in terms of our life and losing a loved one.
Right.
Look at what great things we did with them and for them, and brought them love through that suffering. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why a lot of times people say, boy, I sure hope I have a heart attack and just don't wake up in the morning. I said, I don't want to do it like that.
Yeah.
I want to say goodbye. There's things yeah. Sure, I can do it today, but you're not going to do it today.
Right.
So.
That's true.
There's a lot of times I look at people that have cancer, and do I think it's easy? No, it's not. I'm not going to cover it up and say that's easy, but it's all blessed time.
Yeah.
If you want it to be, it's all blessed time. That you're caring for somebody, and they're preparing for the next place, and just, yeah, it's all blessed time.
Sure.
Yeah. And if we can be a part of it, we're blessed too.
Right.
Yeah.
God is definitely in every moment and has a will for every moment. I say sometimes that as long as we're breathing, we still have a mission.
Right.
There's still more that God wants us to do. And that blessed time is huge. I agree with you. The more I reflect on it, I don't want a quick death. I want A, the sacraments, B, the time to see family, C, to be able to say I'm sorry and ask forgiveness. But to have that opportunity to process it, as hard as it may be. And I'm not there. Like, I don't know. I'm
no, and we don't know how we're going to feel.
Yeah, I'm just imagining it. But yeah, I could see that being a very blessed time. Yeah.
And joy. I visit people in the nursing home, especially up, here in town, the two places, and I go into, other places too. And a lot of times you've known these people a long time by the time they get to the nursing home. And so it's not somebody that I have to stop to see, it's a friend.
Right.
They've gotten to be friends. And I guess I always want to leave them with a smile. Who is it? Who was the comedian? I always say, well, leave them laughing. But leave them with a good, fun thought for the day or something. Yeah. Because they deserve it. They've had a long life, and it's not easy,
Sure.
but they are. And sometimes when somebody's checking in and I'm trying to go through the whole little spiel about, this will be better, and and I'll say, and that's my talk. But I can tell you the other side of the story is that when it's my turn to do this, I have no clue what I'm going to do.
Right. That's so
because
true.
we don't. I mean, I think we always think we know what we're going to do, or I'll do it the best way. Well, that's not necessarily true either.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very real.
Yeah. Right.
So I know in Mother Teresa's spirituality, she was able to do an incredible amount,
Right.
compared to what I can imagine. But we're able to do that, I think, because we're fed by Jesus Christ. We're fed by the Eucharist, by grace. And he's conforming us to himself as we let him shape us, like clay, for example. And I heard you say earlier that, your faith has been important, the Eucharist, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm also hearing you say that, obviously you have a relationship with Jesus Christ that lets you be who you've become. You've let him mold you, and you've said yes throughout your life to serve him. Tell me about your spiritual life, your prayer life, and how does that come into play into the work that you do, the service that you give, the life you live?
Yeah, I'm a 6:30 in the morning mass person during the week. Yeah, and then coffee later. So sometimes you think, well, I hope coffee is secondary, but that's fun too. That's the social part of it. It's important to me when we've always said prayers before meals and things like that are important. But if our family gathers, I try to do a little something special. Maybe make some copies of something that I think will, and usually kind of focus on the kids. Or if somebody's lost somebody, we try to do something special at prayer time. For that, I guess my faith I know somebody said one time, well, Cookie, I just don't think, I'm just not holy about it. And I said, you help people every single day do something. I said, you're doing God's work without hardly even knowing it. I said, when I get up in the morning, I say a morning offering right away. I said, Lord, thank you for the gift of this day. Wherever you want me to be, get me there. And at the end of the day, there's places that I'm not sure how I got there, but I did get there. But then I told her, I said, so when I ring the doorbell or open the door to go in, I always say, okay, Lord, I'm not going in here alone. So I consciously tell him he better be there.
You called me, you're coming.
You're coming with me. And I think all of us sometimes think, oh, wow, where did I get that? That was kind of... But it's God working through you if you want him to. I think a lot of it's just an invitation to have him be with you during the day.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, when you're crawling to bed, I kind of like to think, where do I think he touched my life today? And how could I help somebody else? And not that I can't say that I'm a super pious person or anything. I guess to me, my faith is almost practical. It's like it's just something that you just, it's just there.
Right.
Yeah.
And the core of the spiritual life really is to love God, to love others, and let his grace work through you. Everything else comes with it when we do that well. And yeah, go ahead.
And I think people need to know that whatever job they have, I think nurses of all people in the whole are definitely ministers. They all the love and the care that they have for people, but everybody who connects with people during the day, you have opportunities. I said, I'm not any different than you are. I said, we need to have different. I said, if everybody in the world was a nurse, it wouldn't work. Everybody in the world was a carpenter. And I said, and if everybody in the world did the same thing I did, it wouldn't work either. So I said, we all have our jobs to do.
Right.
And everyone is important.
Right.
Right.
And when we do that role, that job, that career, that whatever hobby with love, it changes everything.
It does. It makes it special. It does.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It's kind of like I said before. If you take care of somebody because you have to, or if because you love them, you do it two different ways.
Right, very true.
Because we've all seen that.
And I think too, going off that, we're going through this life. We're going to go through this life. Let's do it well. We have the choice. We have the choice to go, okay, am I going to maybe suffer through this or struggle through this? Or am I going to embrace that cross? Because we're all going to have crosses, and some are big, some are smaller, and sometimes we think other people have a smaller cross, and until we get to know them better and learn more about their life. But just making that mental shift in my life, your life, our life, and say, I accept this, I embrace this cross, God has given me this, there's something I can learn from it, this is my mission, and that changes everything, right? It changes our attitude and the way we experience it, the way that we come out of it, the impact that we have on everybody else. It's all different, no matter what I'm doing. Maybe I'm the banker, maybe I'm the nurse, the parent, the teacher, the doctor, it doesn't matter. Carpenter, imagine what you create when it's done out of love and authentic service.
Well, and that's with, and I guess probably the thing that I would say is just as important as my faith is my family.
Yeah.
I mean, there's most of the things that I've done I wouldn't have been able to do if Don wouldn't have been as supportive as he is.
Right.
Sometimes he got involved and sometimes he didn't. But then having a family, and watching that, and then having grandkids and then great grandkids, and those are the true gifts of life.
Yeah,
they are. And just to see them grow and doing different things, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I took 5 of my grandkids to Haiti, which was good. The ones that are around here. That was important to me to do that. Yeah. So they always can understand some of the things that I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's definitely a way to get to know Grandma better.
Yeah.
Yeah, Don's obviously been a huge support in your life.
Oh, he has been.
I can relate. Stephanie's, she allows me to do so much. God bless her. Definitely my better half. And you mentioned earlier, 62 years of marriage. Marriage can be struggling, struggling in our country, and the church teaches that the family is the original cell of social life. If marriages are doing well, families will do well. If families are doing well, society does well. And if any of those are suffering, it hurts the church and society and everything.
Right.
So 62 years of marriage. What advice, what thoughts do you have on marriage?
I think I think Don's idea always was a day without laughter is a day lost. And so I think you need to pick up on the joy in things, and I think as you get older, things don't have to be such big things. Maybe it's just picking up all of a sudden and driving up to the family restaurant and having breakfast, either with friends or with just the two of us, whatever. I think realizing that it's the simple things in life that are important. In the backyard, Don and I love nature in the backyard, and I think always, is every day a perfect day? But I think maybe giving each other a little bit of space sometime if you're having a busy, just a little bit. But I think just loving and respecting each other. Yeah. So, and having fun. I think that's important. Yeah.
Especially when things are busy.
Right.
It's very good. What thought? You have grandkids. Any great grandkids? Are you quite there yet? Or?
Olivia's due today.
Oh.
And that'll be number 13.
13 of the great grandkids. Yeah. Okay. So looking at what the world has done throughout your life and looking to the future, eventually that you won't be here.
Right.
What thoughts do you have on how the world has changed and what you've seen and where it's at, and maybe how we can do it well going forward?
I think always to say it's not about me. It's about the people I'm with. It's about the world. It's about how do I help this place individually. We've all been given different gifts and talents and opportunities. Sometimes you've got all the gifts, but you don't have any opportunities to do anything with it. So it's taking what we have and using it for good. How do we do that and really focus on that every day? Yeah, for kids. And that's not always easy, but if you have friends, pick some good friends who are going to help you be a better person. That makes a big difference. Love your parents, because your parents love you and they want the best for you. You know, they do. Are parents always perfect? No. We're all human too, but yeah, I hope they can all have opportunities to reach out and be good for each other, to each other, and do things. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see them do some things that are important to me, but they have to make their own choices on where they're going to be.
Right.
There's a lot of things to do. I mean, we see it. I think with things on the news, I always like it when they close the news session on Channel 2 or whatever with some good thing that happened that day.
Right.
That's what we need. Those are the kind of things that'll spur us on a little bit to do something more outside of ourselves. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about others. And that's how, if we can all do our day like that. God put us there for some reason.
Right.
But the end result doesn't have to be about me. I would rather say faith community than parish.
Mm-hmm.
Because community is a big word. And it puts us all in it together, working together for good. Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons I enjoy always going to the same church. When we were gone last year for a month, and we had a church right across the highway or main drag, and so I would go over there in the morning. And finally, after a while, you kind of got to, or you'd smile at somebody or say something, you got to know them a little bit. So it's to me, I love to celebrate liturgy with people I know. Mm-hmm. I like to look across and say, I know what they're struggling with, that this just happened to them, and I can say a prayer for them. Or, oh wow, they just had a new grandkid, I know they're celebrating today. But you know pretty much everybody in church enough that you can almost be praying with them.
Right. And I think we're called to that. I mean, the
I
church
think we're
was
called
never,
to that.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not meant to be this separated institution. I mean, it has to be an institution to survive 2,000
Right.
years, but
Right.
it's meant to be a parish, or a faith community, a family.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video to join in our mission. Special thanks to all patrons who make Passionately Catholic possible. Visit anthonydigmann.com for more. May God bless you abundantly, and I'll see you again in the next episode.